Hello, you're listening to Recalibrate and Go, a podcast brought to you by Aptude. I'm your host, Michael Foster. We're back. I know it's only been a couple of weeks. We had a lot of things to take care of. I'm sure you're saying to yourself, well, it's a pandemic, you're at home, what could possibly be taking up your time? Well, trust me, we keep pretty busy over here at Aptude, and we got a lot of wonderful materials that are going to be on our website, which you should definitely check out. We're creating a whole series of ebooks, which I think you'll find very fascinating, and I imagine they'll be up sometime mid-June. So be sure to check out our website at aptude.com and take a look at everything we're doing. It's going to be it's a very exciting time. That's the best way to say it. So what about today? Today, we are talking with Wesley Foster Rogers. He's an IT service desk technician over at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington. He's been on the front line for years. He works as an L1, L2 support service technician, so he's had a lot of experience. Him and I will talk about a lot of different things today. As well, he's a musician, I'm an artist. That's our weekend evening work, so I imagine this conversation is going to be a little bit all over the place because, hey, that's what artists do best. He's out in Seattle, and I lived in Seattle for a few years, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that as well. So for everybody who's out there in Chicago and out there in Seattle, you might find a few tidbits interesting about life in either one of those cities. And it should be a good conversation. So we're excited. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. It's Wesley Foster Rogers here on Recalibrate and Go, brought to you by Aptude. We're here today with Wesley Rogers. He is an IT service desk technician, which I probably already said in the introduction, but we are on episode 11 of the Recalibrate and Go podcast, so I'm still learning everything. I actually do all the engineering and the music and pretty much all of it except be the other guest. So it's really important that we get really great people to be our guests because otherwise this would be a complete catastrophe. And today we got Wesley Rogers. Hey, how's it going?
Doing great. How you doing, Michael?
Doing good. Now you're out in Seattle.
That's correct.
As we know, I heard it was hot. It's 87 degrees out there.
It was the other day, but just like how the weather does here, it just all of a sudden dipped back down, and it's overcast and rainy, and it's every hour we have no idea what's going to be like.
Now it's funny because you know this, I know this, but the audience may or may not know this. I lived out in Seattle for 5 years, from 2007 to 2012, and yes, it was interesting because living in Chicago and then you go to Seattle, the weather is a different experience entirely. You never get thunderstorms. I think I heard 3 thunderclaps my entire time I was there. And when it happens, somebody thinks there's an attack or something. Something's wrong.
You hear it and you're like, yes, I'm excited. There's going to be a thunderstorm, and it's just one.
Nothing. It's just a lot of false hope. The West Coast versus the Midwest is that the weather in the Midwest comes out to kill you. And there's always too much. It's too hot, too cold, too many tornadoes, too much hail, too much humidity. It's that's why we're funny. I think actually in the Midwest, it's because we have to be in order to deal. We get like 3 good days a year in Chicago.
Yeah.
1 in the spring, 2 in the fall. It's gotten better though.
Originally, I'm from Texas, so I totally understand that.
Is Austin? That's right. You're from Austin. Is Austin similar?
It is. It's the extremities. That's what people don't realize is those extremities really get you, and that's kind of why I've liked Seattle, because it's temperate. It's even however it varies, like it's not that the snow that covers up your car like in Chicago, or the heat that just makes you sweaty and sticky and feel gross all the time.
Of course, I was out there for the snowstorm of what was it? It was actually 2008 or 2009. We had a big snowstorm, and the city had shut down around Christmas. Snowpocalypse, yeah. We'll talk about that later, though. Right now, because we can talk Seattle all day. And some people might find that interesting. But today we're actually talking about the fact that you are an IT service desk technician for the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. How long have you been over there?
I've been there for 2 years now. 2 years, 5 months.
And your professional career is a lot longer than that. When did you start?
I've started, I would say, when I was really, really young, in the first 386 computer that my uncle gave us. Just we got on computers, my brother and I, and we were trying to figure out how to make it work, and we ended up breaking it and then having to fix it. And so we kind of just learned from experience from there, and then it grew to later down the line, I didn't know how to get into computers, so I started working for Best Buy and slowly got from customer service into Geek Squad. And from there, it kind of helped grow my experience working on computers, not only working on computers, but then on the aspect of dealing with customers that were coming in, having them ask, what can you do for me? And me be like, all right, well, this package helps. I'll be able to do all this work for you, and just kind of offering instead of just doing what everybody wants to or what you think. It's more of like what's best for the user. And then from there, I eventually went to college. I got a networking degree because I kind of just fell into it, and I was doing networking, which is way kind of more complex than service desk, because you're dealing with not really a lot of customer aspect. It's more of the way that data flows through.
No, exactly. And can I say something real quick? I gotta
Yeah.
rewind two things. First of all, what was that computer you started on again? The one you took
A
apart?
386, I forget, just maybe some kind of IBM 386 computer. So it's,
So that's got to be early 90s, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
started on a Phoenix 8088, IBM compatible from like 1987,
Oh
1988.
yeah.
4-color screen. I forget that was
Nice.
CGA or EGA. I can't remember. I think it was CGA.
Yeah, I love
All those
all
old
those old
terms.
computers. It's like being able to kind of train from that. Of course, nowadays we don't have to sometimes use command lines, things like that, but like having done it in the past, it's way easier when I do have to go into the command line.
I remember in the late
Use them.
90s, a computer had broken down at a television station I was working in, and I was the only one who knew DOS because I had
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
use it from the Phoenix
Hmm.
88. It's amazing too, because we talk about technology, and a lot of times it gets to be about the what's new, what's amazing. But what I
Yeah.
like about talking to you is a lot of it is going to be about the practical side of things. First of all, the fact that you've been in it for years, and you and I can talk old computers all day and just really, really geek out and probably lose almost 90% of our audience that we have. What the hell are they talking about? But the other thing is
Or gain
you
more.
or game, yeah, whatever. Like that's true. We are a tech podcast, and maybe that'll get really exciting. I don't know. The other part of it is you worked, for Geek Squad.
Hmm.
So I imagine your experience was like that. The TV show Chuck was probably exactly like that show. If you remember
There,
that.
I would say less exciting, but I did go home. I'm a musician by night, so all the excitement was mainly there, but I did get all like that was the hardest job I feel I ever had, because the getting the customers from the public is crazy, because you do have a bunch of people that you have no idea where they're coming from, and they come up and they a lot of times they just kind of want to rant. They just kind of like, my computer has a bunch of viruses on it. I may have deleted all my pictures from a decade, and I've had people crying. You kind of have to be like, oh, what am I going to do in this situation? Like,
I
I guess.
can't lie to you. I'm one of those people that when tech goes wrong, I go into cardiac arrest. I won't lie to you there. Too many times I've built websites for years, and that call you get, the website's down. It's the most chilling thing.
Yes.
Things that drive terror. I can go to horror movies all day. I'm not a big horror movie guy, but I can see horror movies, vampires, apocalypse, whatever, just as long as the network's up. I'm fine. I can deal
Yeah.
with anything else that's happening. It is
And
true.
that's
It's very instinctual though, isn't it? Because we become so used to it, it literally becomes such a part of our lives, whether it be your phone in your pocket or whatnot. We are addicted to it. We feel like as soon as it's gone, we are either missing out or a part of us is missing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we rely on so much. That's what when I was in networking, that was really stressful too. Because like you said, they would call in the middle of the night when I was on call, and the whole business was down. They're like, I'm losing millions of dollars every minute that this system's down, and I had to jump in and telnet into the router and figure out exactly why BGP routing wasn't working, and that was insane too.
No, it is funny because we do, as human beings, and they talk about it when you're driving, you become like part of your car. And The car is a physical object, and there's a particular psychological term for that. I'll look it up and then I'll mention it in the end of the show. I think with technology, we do the same thing, except it's a much more abstract concept, which I think is part of the reason why we panic so much. Now, speaking of panic, you work in the health industry as well as a service desk technician.
Yes.
So as we are recording this in May of 2020, your life has changed a heck of a lot over the, like everybody else's, but I imagine yours in particular.
It has.
Yeah, what's changed? If you don't mind, the role of the service desk technician from, December 2019 to now. Give me the 411.
Well,
It's an old-timey term, 411.
I'm really thankful where I'm working. It is interesting because a lot of the doctors and scientists are actually working on the forefront to figure out this disease that came out of basically nowhere, or out of left field is what we felt. And bringing back around the snowpocalypse, our company, we had another snowstorm probably after you left, which was like Snowpocalypse 2, the sequel. And that kind of prepared us for this, because we started thinking, how are we going to have more users work from home comfortably and successfully, especially when we're a huge research institution that is basically, our goal is to cure cancer, destructive cancers by 2025, and we do other diseases as well, HIV and other viral diseases. So they wanted to make sure that everybody be able to work from home successfully. So they started basically churning ideas, figuring out what to happen. So basically, we implemented Office 365 so that we could have collaboration tools, and we had a whole year of implementing Office 365, and then once that was implemented, I was actually on the project implementing Microsoft Teams from the Office 365, and that took about a year. And that was a little bit before this hit us, and once it did, it just showed everybody how important it was, because then everybody was kind of forced to use the tool, and then they realized that it was actually a tool that would help them collaborate and keep working.
Data science is at the heart of innovation. And in a data-driven world where AI, IoT, and digitalization can transform your organization, you need a team who has the technical know-how to help you get those projects done while helping you contain costs. With local and nearshore offices, Aptude has delivery models and teams ready to go with the experience to help your innovation project be successful. Reach out to us, learn more at aptude.com, or give us a call. In fact, you should just give a direct call to our Vice President, Guy DeRosa. He's waiting for you. Give him a call at Aptude. Does it help to be out in Seattle? I'm always curious, because obviously Microsoft is everywhere. But being located in Microsoft country, because I found that for me a little bit, it did give me a bit of an advantage in terms of just having access to certain technologies or whatnot, maybe more beta types of things. Did it help you guys being out there, or did it make no difference?
We probably have more access to the specific contacts, maybe vendors, the contacts that work with us directly to implement them. I forget exactly what they call them, but it's basically the go-to between Microsoft and the company. So we do have access to that, I think. I think they probably go around and work with companies a little bit easier. All they have to do is drive down from Bellevue, probably. Oh, yeah. So it's a bit easier that way, it does seem. And it is a very tech-centered city. And, even though I come from Austin, that it is as well. I mean, that's where Dell was. It was pretty huge, Texas Instruments. So, there's a lot down there as well. So I didn't see that much difference, but it is interesting to have Microsoft here, Google here, Facebook, Nintendo.
Well, you guys are also quick to react too. I remember just hearing that. I mean, I think part of it was since there are so many tech people in Seattle, it was easier to make that transition working from home for many people because they were already in that industry to begin with. Obviously, the restaurants have suffered. And I actually have friends of mine who run restaurants over in Seattle. Shout out to the Steelhead Diner. Hey guys, hope you guys are doing good. And a few of my friends, Proshki. A lot of those guys are still,
Yes.
yeah. And I know it's got to be tough, but I think it was a different dynamic in Seattle. And part of the reason why I think you guys were able to keep ahead of the curve was simply because of all the techs.
It's really strange looking out from, we have a like a 6th floor balcony that we can go out to and kind of look out, and it'd be like Saturday night, we look out over and it's quiet up on Capitol Hill, and you can see everybody in their apartments. And yeah, probably because they're all just like, yeah, I can work from home. That's what I'm doing, what a lot of my friends are doing. And it's kind of that, is that they're hunkered inside, and usually Saturday night there's so many partiers out, and it's so loud and people everywhere, and it's been interesting. But yeah, it was a bit easier for them to go for
Make
the
the
transition.
Yeah. Now, besides the fact that obviously working from home, because that was the big thing, and working on that, we had a few podcasts, even where we talked to guys like Jack and Heather, who talked about the whole transition part and how some companies had it easier than others, depending on if their legacy system had been updated and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
What else did you guys have? Was there any particular things in terms of the transition that you thought, okay, this is interesting, this is very different than my life 6 months ago, besides just working from home in our t-shirts and socks optional?
Yeah, I think when one of the things that's different is when we're in meetings, it's weird to see the floating heads occasionally when people don't put on their cameras. So you'll be in a meeting and someone will say, does anybody else have anything else to comment on? And then you sit there and there's silence. And you just see these floating heads staring back at you, and it's really kind of creepy. But then my boss was like, maybe we should switch to turning on the cameras so we can actually see each other, from now on, which I think is kind of one of the things that is, you have to use these technologies that do dehumanize things, but then you have to use them in a way to still have that human element of someone actually sitting there reacting in a nod or a thumbs up, thumbs down when they don't feel like they should all just chime in, turn on their microphones and go, nope, we're good.
Well, that's one of the things, right? Because obviously we record this for audio just simply for bandwidth purposes.
Yeah.
We got a chance to see each other over camera before we started recording this. And eventually maybe we'll start doing video versions as well as audio versions. We'll see. We're still new. This is only episode 11.
Well, it's interesting when
yeah.
that started happening. Do you remember back in the day when radio shows started doing that, like Howard Stern? Like you watch video from a Howard Stern show back in the 90s, and you're like, really? They videotape that? Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought it was just radio.
It's the most boring video. There's nothing really special about it. They just put 2 cameras in there. It's almost like the same setup you do for like a small town board meeting. There's no difference. It's really the personalities in the end that still carry through and carry the show. They didn't rely on gimmicks, a lot of those. And I think it's interesting now because you're seeing that, but also too, you're seeing the fact that you have to have video because in order to be able to respond to one another correctly, communicating with people who aren't necessarily media savvy. You and I work in the media in a certain respect. So you and I can kind of bounce off each other. We're used to this sort of thing. We've done interviews. We've been on both sides of interviews, so we get it. But for people who haven't, if they're not seeing somebody, then it becomes much more difficult to kind of really get that context to figure out really what's going on, really what they're thinking. And also too, just the bandwidth issues themselves. It takes more to send video than audio. And a lot of companies have struggled with that.
That is true. Depending on if it's a huge meeting, like an all hands, that gets a little iffy, and they've had problems in the past, but then they adapted, they learned, all right, I need to make sure everybody's off the VPN when we're doing it for a large audience so that they're not completely hammering that tunnel. So the networking side of that, of the video and audio, when we implemented Microsoft Teams, that's when meetings, they always are so smooth, and the video and audio are great because that's utilizing Microsoft's, like, their network bandwidth, and for the most part, and it's great. And of course, if there's one person that's working from home that has horrible internet, it's going to be kind of a bit of a bad experience on their end, but it doesn't kind of hog up everybody else.
What's been the biggest challenge for you running ServiceDesk now? Or I don't want to say challenge, I don't want to steer that question, just more in general, like you working, the kinds of things you do daily. Like, can you run through, give me your day, like give me like the kinds of things you see doing being an IT ServiceDesk technician. I knew I'd get to the question sooner or later.
I wake up, of course, in the morning.
Well, I
I
would hope
wake up.
so.
It takes me a while to completely wake up, get coffee. Like all the rituals, the routines that I did before are there. I get up, make sure everything is started up, start up my laptop, get on the VPN, checking emails, and just kind of going through the ticket queue, making sure that anybody that's the highest priority is taken care of first, slowly waking up with more coffee, just kind of tackling the, what needs to be taken care of. The first little amount of time is me making sure that I take care of things like emails, clear that out so there's not clutter, so that my day can start fresh instead of there being a whole bunch of clutter everywhere.
Has the tickets gone up since the everyone working from home or not? Same? What's been going on?
It did. It spiked from the beginning because everybody, of course, was trying to learn how to either use their personal computers, how to use company-issued laptops. They were taking their desktops home and trying to figure out how to connect them there. So it was everybody kind of getting used to the tools, and some were panicking because they wanted to continue like usual, like normal, but our bosses were very understanding. They were like, just take your time, get accustomed to it, because when you're panicking, it does slow down productivity. It's more of to, take your time, make sure that you have everything comfortable, make sure that you have however amount monitors you need in the correct position to be certain that you're comfortable, because the more comfortable you are, the more productive you are, I've learned, and other people as well. When they have their tools that helps them actually do their job and it's fun for them and it's actually enjoyable, then they'll want to keep doing their work instead of just being like, oh, I have to use this tiny laptop with a 13-inch screen. I used to use a big, huge 24-inch curved screen at work, and it helped me be more productive. It's basically
It's the
trying to figure
human
that stuff
aspect,
out.
right? It's the human aspect, right? Because if you're not comfortable working at home, then yeah, productivity goes down. If people are confused, productivity goes down. And if this happens with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, then you start to see that escalate into a catastrophe.
Yeah.
I can completely see that. And once again, too, you and I work in the tech industry. So for us, I know for me, my routine didn't change much other than I'm just hanging out with my wife all the time. And
Exactly.
you're hanging out with your wife all
My
the
new
time.
coworker.
Yes, exactly.
That's what
And you
that
guys
and my
have a
pets.
and you guys have a band together. So real quickly,
That's right.
let's talk real quick about the band, and then I want to bring you back because I want to talk more about Service Desk.
Sure.
That's cool with you. So real quickly, you're part of Two Libras,
Yes.
and you guys, how long have you been doing that?
We've been doing that for, I would say, a little over 2 years as well. It kind of started around the same time I started this job. It was a new job, new year, new band, and it's been growing. I wouldn't say I would say I co-lead with her because I'm one of the two Libras,
Yeah.
and so once again we're coworkers in
For
that
for my
aspect.
for the audience, it's my sister. He's married to my sister. That's how. But that's not why he's talking. He's talking because he really knows his stuff. So that's why he's here. Once again, a big thank you to Wesley Foster Rogers. He'll be back for part 2 of this conversation, in which I think we'll actually get to a little bit more about Service Desk. But like I said, we're a couple of artists. That conversation was going to go meander. And a big shout out to all you in Seattle, and of course everybody here back home in Chicago. It's May of 2020, and we're all just starting to get back to getting out there. It's a kind of a nervous time, and I know a lot of my friends who have restaurants and have businesses have had a real tough go of it, and so hang in there. I'm hoping you're doing okay. Also, big shout out to all you fans of Chuck and you nerd herders out there. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the show. If not, it's a quirky, it's a cute little kind of a Diet Coke of a show. I think it's on Amazon Prime. You can check it out for anybody who's interested in the life of IT or Service Desk or Geek Squad, that sort of a thing. And it's become a cult classic. So it's kind of fun to do a shout out with that as well. Now, if you like what you're hearing, and I certainly hope you do, please subscribe to our podcast. We're everywhere. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher, we're on YouTube, we're on TuneIn, we're on SoundCloud. Make sure you subscribe. Oh, and we're going to close with a song from Wes's man, Two Libras. The song's called Killing It. We're going to play a little snippet for you. I hope whatever you're doing, you're killing it as well. This is Recalibrate and Go, brought to you by Aptude. Be sure to check out our website at aptude.com, and thanks for listening.